Hi. One of the things I love about social media is the feedback I get from people like you. Thank you, by the way. It means at least two things. One, I'm not dumping content into some empty vessel. I can get some sense as to how it lands in real time and how it resonates or not. And two, when I receive a response from you, it means you are engaged enough to take the time to write back to me. If you wouldn't care, you would spend your time doing other stuff, right? Now, one of the frustrating things about social media is that when you're active on many platforms like I am, you get lots of comments and there isn't enough time in the day or night to reply to every single one of them, even though I try. Very wealthy people can afford to hire social media managers who respond on their behalf. Well, I'm not there yet, but believe me, I'm working on it, okay? Anyway, remember that video about being over-emotional as a narrator? Over-emotional? By the way, what you're hearing right now is all the 4x4s that are passing on the road close to my home. It's a lovely day in Vermont, and riding 4x4s is a big hobby. But anyway, remember that video about being over-emotional as a narrator? Is it okay to subject the listener to your personal feelings, or should you step back and give the listener some personal space? I know some people have stopped listening to some audiobooks because they could not stand the melodramatic, self-indulgent performance the voice actor was giving. The narrator became a distraction instead of a conduit. But who determines the line between acting and overacting? And are we able to objectively evaluate our own performance to realize when we're overdoing it? One of my colleagues wrote to me, "If I am moved, the listener is. If I am moved, the listener is." We have to go with our belief and our gut. I had to think about that one. That's like a professional chef saying, if I like the way I prepare my food, my customers will like it too. But doesn't that also depend on the taste of the person sitting at the diner table? A person the chef has never seen in his or her entire life? How does the chef know what he or she likes? I've seen professional musicians who believe they have given the performance of a lifetime only to read a terrible review the day after. As a voice actor, I will often listen back to auditions I did years ago. Auditions I was sure I nailed at the time, but when I listen to myself knowing what I know now, I can totally understand why I didn't get the gig. So I wasn't such a good judge of my own work after all. It's because we can never be objective about our own performance. We're too invested, too biased, or we are our own worst critic. That can happen too. We need quality feedback from people who are not involved in the process, who have no skin in the game or ties to us. It's like being a judge at a competition. If you're too close to the person you're judging, you can no longer be objective. And who is closer to us than we are to ourselves, right? Secondly, if you say, when I am moved, my listener is, this presupposes that you know the listener. Otherwise, there's no way of knowing. But how is it even humanly possible to know that thousands of individual listeners with individual preferences will like what you're doing just because you have a good feeling about it? Coca-Cola once had a very good feeling about New Coke, and it became one of the biggest flops in marketing history. I may be very happy with the way this video turns out, for instance, but you may think it's garbage and I'm an arrogant son of a gun, right? There's a reason movie studios show new movies to focus groups and ask for feedback, because outsiders will give their honest opinion. The director may think it's a masterpiece, but the audience may say it's the most boring movie they've ever seen. There is a reason even a successful author should never edit his or her own work. They are immune to their own mistakes and too involved to be objective. Ultimately, the success of any performance depends on how it is received. The only thing we can influence is our part. Then it's up to the audience to decide, and they don't care if we feel good about our own performance. They don't care about how much money we've invested, how much time we've sacrificed, or how much we spent on our equipment and our expensive vocal booth. They don't care. The professional chef I was just talking about may have used the best ingredients, but if the customer or the food critic thinks his dish was too sweet, that's what will end up in the review. And that's not something the chef can predict. After watching my video about why I think narrators should keep their emotions in check, one viewer said, "This is very much the opposite of what the advice I've received from several reputable industry coaches and from avid audiobook listeners." If that is your style, Paul, and opinion, all good. but I'm not sure conveying this as coaching advice for narrators is entirely accurate. To that I say, I don't care if you agree or disagree with me. I don't pretend to tell the truth about audiobook narration, voice acting, or anything for that matter. If someone tells you there is one accurate way to do it and one way only, I would run away quickly. There are many ways, and that's what makes this so interesting. I mean, how many versions of Hamlet have you seen? Is one the accurate way, or should we embrace the fact that there are many ways to approach this play? I really don't mind if you turn on the tears next time you narrate an audiobook. That's your choice. You can do whatever you want. My goal in these videos is to give you a few things to think about and come to your own conclusions. You'll find out soon enough if your theories hold or not. It's like doing auditions. You may have a good gut feeling about it, but ultimately the client decides.